goes live in 2 minutes. Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
All right, my first question is, where is Timbuktu?
India.
You're guessing, Jess? India?
No.
What?
I don't know.
You don't know. Well, I didn't know either. I know now because the country it is in is undergoing some turmoil. And so in reading the papers, I finally have placed Timbuktu on a map. Well, at least in a country. Fact of the matter is, I don't know that I can place the country on a map. But why is that name? Why do we know the name of that city? It was an ancient city, but is it simply because the sound of it is so? Why do we know Timbuktu? Why does somebody like a kid know Timbuktu? And I think I get it mixed up with an American presidential race slogan, Tippecanoe and Tyler too. Do you remember that one? So I think in my head, with whatever jumble has occurred from all the facts that are poured into it in your schooling, I think Tippecanoe and Timbuktu have sort of morphed into something, although I am capable of separating them, but I never quite knew how to place Timbuktu. So I will tell you, Timbuktu is in Mali, M-A-L-I, and this is an African nation that has been having a great deal of trouble with rebels who want to pull part of the country away and form their own country, and a recent coup that toppled a democratically elected president, yada, yada, yada. And because I give short shrift, but I do find myself reading up on these problems in countries that we and the American media rarely pay any attention to. And I kept seeing a dateline, Timbuktu. Timbuktu and Tyler too, right? For that matter, what was Tippecanoe? Tippecanoe was a battle, I think, right? Jeez. I mean, at some point we learned it. I can't speak for you. At some point, I learned this stuff. And as so often happens, much of what I learned has sort of disappeared into the crevices of my gray matter, and in a fragmented way that really conjures up very little, but sometimes helps me doing a crossword puzzle or playing Jeopardy or something. The fact will all of a sudden pop out, and you think, where the heck did I learn that? I don't know. And it's not what I would really call knowledge, because, as I said, just because you can say Tippecanoe and Tyler too, but can't remember what exactly that was about, what good is that information? What percentage of what you learned in grade school and high school do you think you retained? Percentage. Seriously retained, so that it's absolutely there in your head. Now, if we put grade school in, the percentage goes way up, because, you still know your multiplication tables and you know how to read and that stuff. So, okay, let's take grade school out. What percentage of what you learned in high school do you think you retain? I'm going to say no better than 20%, if that.
Say 40.
You're going to, Jess is saying 40%? Wow. I don't know. I mean, I remember that I used to be able to explain how radio really worked and television worked. I even built a little radio. I used to understand things about what glands did and aspects of human anatomy, and also history. And what I've retained, I don't know how to do algebra anymore. I mean, all that is just gone. Geometry, gone. Science, pretty much gone. Geography, pretty much gone. The only thing that I sort of retained is a lot having to do with language and literature, because that's just the way I'm wired. But, my God. Susan, my sister, once said that, none of that matters, because the whole idea of education actually is teaching you how to learn. And that if you learned how to learn, then you're in good shape. If you learned an appreciation for knowledge and a curiosity, then that in and of itself is an excellent education, because it means you'll always be able to learn, and in fact desirous of learning. And see, that's the kind of thing that teaching to the test and rote learning does not do at all. Does not do at all. But it just sometimes blows me away how much I don't remember. More than I can even conceive, I'm sure. Okay, just wanted to get that in about Timbuktu. Sports page, New York Times, and I'm sure other sports pages too today. I just happened to see this. A audio tape of, have you heard about this? I don't know, of the Saints defensive coach, the one who's been indefinitely suspended, Greg Williams. A tape of him literally exhorting his players to hurt specific players on the 49ers prior to a game has emerged. I guess it was shot by some documentarian or something, and he has let it out. I think Yahoo Sports was the one that broke this. And here is this guy, this coach, literally saying, I have a quote or two here. Every single one of you, before you get off the pile, affect the head. Early, affect the head. Continue, touch, and hit the head. He's talking about 49ers quarterback Alex Smith. He's saying, can you imagine? He's saying that even if you take him down, when you're on him, hurt him. Okay? Here he is talking about 49ers running back Frank Gore. He's on tape saying, we've got to do everything in the world to make sure we kill Frank Gore's head. We want him running sideways. We want his head sideways. Also talks about putting a hit on Kyle Williams. And he reminds the Saints defense that Williams has a history of concussions. So he's telling, go for his head. He's got a history of concussions here. Also tells them to go after receiver Michael Crabtree and urges them to take out his ACL. He said it's weak. Outside ACL, take it out. If that guy is ever allowed to step on a football field again. Now, of course, some players and some people are saying, this kind of thing goes on. In that same article, a player known for being an extraordinarily hard hitter and known for ending up on the wrong side of Commissioner Roger Goodell, our very own James Harrison, is quoted after reading or hearing these remarks, and he's stunned. He's stunned. He said, never in my life have I heard a coach say such things. And I absolutely believe him. Absolutely believe him. So anyone who's suggesting that this is par for the course is, I think, absolutely wrong. But that this exists in football, yes. And these guys got caught. Unbelievable. Okay, speaking of unbelievable, let's go to the state of Florida. Actually, I have a lot of things here that take us south of the Mason-Dixon line, which is always scary to some of us, who simply cannot get in the head of our southern brethren, or at least the culture, and certainly the political culture. As you know, the Republican Convention, in which Mitt Romney will be tepidly, the balloons will fly, and the cheering and the placards will be going, and it'll be well staged, but the love just ain't there. In which Mitt Romney will take on the job of carrying the banner of the GOP into the 2012 presidential election, will be held in Florida, specifically in Tampa. Now, when it comes to security at a political convention, national political convention, it's enough to make a person's, hair fall out. Very difficult to secure these huge, huge venues. And then, of course, they attract demonstrators, people who want to get their point of view across, since the media presence is huge. And how you secure the exterior of the venue becomes a problem. The Secret Service is totally in charge of the interior of the venue. So even though it's the state of Florida, and citizens in the state of Florida can carry their concealed weapons anywhere they damn well please, they ain't going to be able to do it inside the venue, because the Secret Service is going to be in control, and no matter what the state law says, the Secret Service ain't letting them in. But outside the venue, Florida law will reign supreme, which means the number of concealed weapons directly outside the venue is probably going to be astronomical. The government of Tampa, the city government of Tampa, is very nervous about all of this because its police are having to police that area outside. And so the city council of Tampa is trying its best to prepare very tight security precautions and, in fact, has issued a number of temporary bans of weapons, which I was shocked to hear. I thought, Florida? Yeah. The city council, here's what's banned. The city council of Tampa will be banning during the convention hatchets, switchblades, clubs, pepper spray, slingshots, shovels, chains, and any gun that shoots water, paint, or air. You will notice there's a certain gun missing there. So in other words, it will be illegal outside the Republican Convention to carry a squirt gun. It will be perfectly legal to carry a Magnum, fully loaded. You can't make this stuff up, can you? And the thing is, you see, the state of Florida has passed a law last year at the behest, of course, of fill in the blank, the National Rifle Association, that prohibited city governments in Florida from enacting any ordinance having to do with firearms. Now, excuse me if I'm wrong, but don't we have something like that here? Because I do recall, not too many years ago, an effort by the Pittsburgh City Council in which we passed some kind of legislation about handguns or didn't because the state law would have superseded it. It does not allow us to do it. If anybody's more, see here again, the Swiss cheese of my brain. A lot of information being taken in, which I hold for about 24 hours, and then pff, off it goes. But I'm not so sure Pennsylvania law is much better on that front. But the idea that you can get hauled away if you're carrying a squirt gun, but not if you've got an AK-47. I love it. Okay, so there will also, as you know, outside these convention areas, they now what we do is, given the fact that we have this pesky First Amendment that supposedly allows Americans to speak freely and to protest freely. They now have these penned-in areas for demonstrations, and that will be the case at the Republican Convention in Tampa. And the protest area will have even a tighter security, including, besides pea shooters and squirt guns, it'll also ban, I don't understand why, ladders and metal-tipped umbrellas, but not Uzis. Gosh, I love this. And so, of course, since we now know that Florida has this stand your ground law, stop and think of what could happen in demonstrators outside, many of them armed, on opposite sides of issues. Somebody feels threatened. Bang, bang, bang. So, if you're a rational person, this reality that a pea shooter is illegal, but an Uzi is not, is it's down the rabbit hole stuff. It's what I've talked about for years. And this is, when I said I have trouble sometimes getting my head around our culture. And in this case, I simply am incapable of it. Our gun culture is insane. Absolutely mad. But it did... This whole thing here, this scenario, made me think of Chris Potter's wonderful idea, in which he now has decided, since the gun control issue has simply been lost by my side, and without a doubt has been won by the NRA and its owned legislators and legislatures and various Congresses for decades. It's over. So Potter has advocated, and I absolutely agree with him, that what needs to happen is that liberals and Democrats need to arm themselves ostentatiously. And I can't think of anything funnier in Florida that if you were to get, let's say, all the black residents of Sanford armed and have them show up. There's something about these NRA types that I think when they're promulgating this stuff, they're thinking white people with guns. They ain't thinking black people with guns. They ain't thinking feminazis with guns. They ain't thinking liberals with guns or Democrats. They not. I know who they're thinking with guns, and you do too. Well, I think it's time to get on their side. Say, okay, well, if we can't beat you, I guess we'll join you. I'll see your Uzi and raise you too. Yeah? Yeah. To the NRA, be careful what you wish for. Any bomb threats yet?
I have my phone's charging.
Oh, your phone's charging, so you do it. Oh, probably, though.
Probably.
Yeah, before the day's out, there'll be about 10 or 12. So I got an email from a friend who works in the Cathedral of Learning yesterday saying that it was frazzling the hell out of people there. I mean, it was. Now, personally, if I were down there, and I can tell you, I would not be afraid. I would be furious, that's all. I mean, I don't think for a minute this SOB is going to plant a bomb. He's simply about sowing chaos and holding hostage a huge institution very easily. So I would not be fearful for my life, but I'd be pissed off beyond belief. The constant distraction of it, the inability to know if you can, finish your work or get a class done, or in the case of the kids in the dorms, get a night's sleep if you've got a final coming up. But my friend said that she was frazzled. She said, and people around are frazzled, and it's really taking a toll. And she's a very religious and kind Christian. And she said, please pray for us and for the poor, deluded soul who's... And I read that and I thought, what? You want to pray for him or her? I'm going to say him is just and pray for him? So I wrote her back. I said, pray for him? Are you kidding me? Come on. I said, and this is why you are celebrating Easter this weekend, because she's a true Christian. and I'm celebrating Passover because my God is the Old Testament God, and he's angry. And here's what I'm praying for. I'm praying my Old Testament God parts the waters of the Mon and drops this SOB in. Yay! I got biblical precedence on my side, right? So at my Seder table tonight, I will raise a glass to that angry Old Testament God who is my God, and not your namby-pamby Jesus, who taught forgiveness, for God's sake. Jesus! Excuse me. She's such a good soul. Pray for him. I said, no, thank you. You pray for him. I'm not going to pray for him. I said, and I think you might want to rethink your Christian-based opposition to the death penalty. Because this is starting to appear to me to be a capital offense. God. So anyway, the Post-Gazette reported today a little bit on the difficulty of finding this person. And we were talking yesterday about, well, can't you trace? I mean, if they're emailing stuff, no, you can't. You know why? Because whoever's doing this is savvy enough. They said maybe he's a kind of hacker person because he's doing both real retro stuff, leaving scribbled notes on mirrors in bathrooms or on paper towels left in sinks in bathrooms. So it's either the bathroom thing, the very retro thing, or it's emailing reporters or others. But here's the problem. He's sending these emails about the bomb threats. He's emailing them through something called Mixmaster. You know what that is? Well, listen to this. I'll tell you, there's nothing, this internet, something else. Mixmaster is a very sophisticated anonymity tool on the internet. And here's somebody quoted from CMU, who's part of their, I guess he oversees their privacy and security lab at CMU. He says, if I were to use Mixmaster, when I would send the email, instead of sending it to the person I want to send it to, I'm going to send it through Mixmaster, in which it's going to go through a chain of intermediaries, and each messenger tells it to go to another messenger, to another messenger, to another messenger, and sometimes they put false information in, and they create a trail that is almost 99.9% untraceable. And it finally does get to who you want it to go to. So people are saying, because this person is using Mixmaster, they can't trace him. Their best hope is using the scrawled threats. But even that, they've called in handwriting analysts, and one guy who's a handwriting expert said, you can't tell anything from these except this person is angry. 8 of the threats have been scrawled in bathrooms. The rest have gone through this anonymous Mixmaster. Another security expert in Florida says, if this person knows what they're doing, it tells me they're pretty knowledgeable in IT security and probably the darker side of it, probably a hacker or distributor of viruses. Well, that would fit a jerk that distributes viruses or hacks would fit, to me, the same profile of somebody who would get a charge out of doing this kind of thing. Now, you've heard maybe in reporting on these bomb threats that that the cops say they have a person of interest. Well, that they're looking at, but clearly you don't have anything on this person of interest. The person of interest, though, it turns out, has been identified this much, at least in the Post-Gazette today. The person of interest is a volunteer firefighter. Now, every time I see, forgive me, all you good volunteer firefighters out there, but we know that it is not an unusual story to learn that a series of arsons has been traced to a volunteer firefighter, because people who are drawn to fire and want to fight fires and maybe aren't getting enough fires to fight might set the fires so that they can then respond to the fires. And this, throughout my journalistic career, I cannot tell you how many times that story has played and replayed and replayed and replayed. So it's interesting, and the reason they're looking at this volunteer firefighter is, I can see why it's a red flag. Whoever this guy is, he early in the first few threats, he was always the same person. He was on scene and was available to be interviewed by local news crews. So he's somebody who hung around watching the evacuation, watching the media descend, and then if a reporter came up and wanted to talk to somebody, he was very eager to talk, this guy, the person of interest. So it is unusual that the same person would end up being interviewed in a few situations because he always seemed to be there. And it is also true that when people do these kinds of things, they get their thrills out of watching what they have begot. So I can see why that guy's a person of interest, but the fact is they clearly don't really have anything on him. Another person says they've just got to review all surveillance video outside all the restrooms. Also have detectives interviewing students who regularly use those restrooms. Wow. I know at one of the halls, I forget, what's the Chevron, that after the first threat, because Chevron's had a number of them, they've closed all doors, all access to the building. Any faculty or student who goes in Chevron goes in one door in which they have to show their ID. So I think since they've instituted that, I believe there have been more threats on Chevron. But they could have been emailed. There's a story in here about how some students are feeling so frightened, and there's a petition going around campus saying that they want this university to call off this semester or postpone it or whatever. That is such a nightmare for the school. I cannot even begin to imagine. I don't know. What do you do? I really, my heart rarely goes out to the administration at Pitt, but it does, and to the investigators, and to all those poor bomb-sniffing dogs who are, man, apparently every bomb-sniffing dog in the tri-state area is simply is kenneled now in Oakland. Unbelievable. Hey, I got to take a break here, guys. I think I shall.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
It takes 12 years to create a graduate. It takes about the same time to create a dropout. And at the end of the day, the difference between a child becoming one or the other could be you. Studies prove that reading to a child regularly dramatically improves reading skills. And kids who read well by 3rd grade are 4 times as likely to graduate. So United Way is asking you to make a pledge. Tutor a child who needs help. Mentor a kid who needs someone on their side. Volunteer to read to children. Because when a child advances, we all advance. Communities improve. The path to success starts long before graduation day. And the difference between a graduate and a dropout could be you. Be a reader, tutor, or mentor. Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United. Go to liveunited.org now. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Pittsburgh City Paper is available now. Pick up one today for the distinctively Dutch Festival, Pittsburgh Zoo Hop, and Dingus Day. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
Hey, welcome back to all of you. Got a surprise, a guest coming in. As a preamble here, before I introduce her, let me just say that I am always, as I have said before, I suspect even bragged before, I have never missed voting in an election since I was able to vote. And I'm old enough that I wasn't able to vote until I was 21. But since then, I have voted just with a sort of a, religiously. I can't imagine not voting, even if it's some paltry little primary election. And I guess this was inculcated in me by my parents. And I just heard the other day somebody say, I always think of all those men who died so that we could vote. And I'm thinking, well, okay. But if you're a woman, not voting seems even more of an outrage to me. If you are African American, not voting seems more of an outrage to me. Because Americans died and fought on our soil so that women and African Americans could vote here. From the dawning of this nation, white men, could vote. But the rest of us had to wait and wait. And for women, my grandmother was born into a country in which she could not vote. My mother was born 1 year after women got the right to vote. So it just doesn't seem that it was like ancient history to me when women were denied the vote. The fact that our grandmothers might have fought, might have been beaten, might have been arrested, might have been ridiculed, might have been jailed, might have been force-fed, might have gone on hunger strikes for the right to vote should not be lost on any woman today. For a woman not to vote is outrageous. I just want to say that. And now I'm going to introduce a woman who I bet has always voted in every election, too. Mary Alice.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi. Have you voted in every election?
Yes, I have.
Neither sleet, nor rain, nor hail, nor dark of night, nor... Yeah.
Right. It is hard to believe, that there were women who were force-fed, who were hung by their hands on doors.
Yeah, behind bar women. This is Mary Alice Gorman. I never really fully introduced you. Mary Alice Gorman was one of the founders of the Western Pennsylvania Women's Political Caucus, which was a bipartisan group of women.
Women who were interested in getting more women to vote and run for office.
Yeah. And you may also know Mary Alice as the proprietor of an extremely successful independent bookstore, Mystery Lovers
That's right.
Bookshop, which I hear you're trying to sell.
We actually have 11 people who are interested, and we're working with them.
Wow. Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah, it's very exciting. But I think this election is going to be very hard for everybody to think that they have something in the fire, particularly if they're not Democrats or if, in fact, we have only one Republican candidate in this upcoming election. But I think we have a woman running for Attorney General. We have a good man running for Attorney General. I think people need to, focus on some of the facts of the matter that in Pennsylvania, the primary's coming up, and you need to educate yourself as to who's in the running and decide who you're going to vote for.
You're obviously talking about the primary election, which is just, 2.5 weeks away?
2.5 weeks away.
2.5 weeks away. And you're right. A lot of people might think, well, I'm not a Republican. Why should I go? No, you've been seeing ads, I would think, for these two very, very, I think, wonderfully attractive candidates for the Democratic nomination for Pennsylvania's Attorney General.
And this is a man who in his ad claims that he's pro-choice. And that I haven't seen in a long time.
No, here the guy is Murphy. Is that his name?
Yeah.
Former congressman
right.
Murphy, and veteran, and
but he's not bowing to this trend.
Not at all.
Isolating those issues of social values that we seem to be hearing a lot of in some of the other primary states.
Well, as we know, Pennsylvania is socially, I think, pretty darn conservative, and even the Democrats, especially here in southwestern Pennsylvania, rarely do you hear a Democrat in southwestern Pennsylvania say, and I will protect a woman's right to choose.
Right.
So it is sort of breathtaking when he says that.
It is, and and I think that the public debate that is taking place, that has been categorized as a war against women, whether it's a war or not, it certainly is a call to arms.
Yes, exactly.
I think that we must be aware that if there's a certain irony in all these proclamations that we should have less government in our lives, but yet there's more action taken in the invasion of women's personal space and their bodies in law, and it just is ironic to me that is what's happening.
Well, I was talking to City Paper editor Chris Potter the other day, and we figured out that it comes down to a simple preposition, and it is that these current brand of conservatives that have overtaken the Republican Party are opposed to government doing something for you. They are not opposed to government doing something to you. It is that.
You are so right about that.
Isn't it true? So
it is. It's just one word.
One word, to or for. They've got no problem with government to you. Government for you sends them into, fits.
I know.
I
know, and it's very important because women are the caretakers in our society. You're the ones who, regardless of how equal the tasks are in your own family, you are the caretakers of the children. And for those of us who pass the age of 55, you're the caretakers of the grown-ups. They become the children, your parents.
Right.
And I think that we should consider ourselves the caretaker of our democracy, because if we don't get out there and vote at full strength, we're not going to have our needs and our benefits reflected in the laws of this land. That's all there is to it. And it's become formidable now to run for office. You need to have over $1 million to run for even a House seat. And women have not caught up that quickly in the financial arena when it comes to running for office. And like I said before, their multiple jobs as caretakers often prevent them from having the time to run for office. And we really need to have more women lawmakers, but by the same token, we really need to be the ones who consider ourselves to be the caretakers of our democracy and vote in every election.
Well, we are, it's so often true that in national elections, I've always maintained that the Republicans always have a group targeted to excite their base. And that, in my lifetime, has been anywhere from black people to gay people to immigrants to, and this year, I think it's us.
I do, too.
It's women.
Too. Who'd have thunk it, like my mother used to say.
Yeah, right. Who'd have thunk it? Us. And let's, I was saying earlier in the show that the vast majority of what we learned in history classes in high school or college, we've forgotten, if we ever learned it at all. And I don't know that we teach what these women did.
No, I think we just learned the definition for the women's suffrage movement. I don't think we learned what the actions were.
Well, what prompted Mary Alice's being on the program today is she sent me and others an email, and it was an email full of pictures that I had never seen before. I'm looking at one now of a woman. She is behind bars. She is jailed. Her name is Helena Hill Weed. Right. Never heard of her. Of Norwalk, Connecticut. And I'm looking at her. She was serving a 3-day sentence in a Washington, D.C. prison for, get this, here's what she was sentenced to for 3 days, for carrying a banner that said, "Governments derive their just powers from the consent of the governed."
Right.
What?
Right.
What? Where? How do you? I mean, we think justice can be hard to get now, but my God, where was the First Amendment? I mean, where was an attorney with the First Amendment? Her crime was saying something that is enshrined in the very ethos of our nation. 3 days in jail.
No, it had to be fought for. It's eternal vigilance is the byword for keeping the Constitution's intent in front and center in our government everyday lives. And these women were they were Republicans, they were Democrats.
Right.
As a matter of fact, one of the famous women of Pittsburgh, Mary Roberts Reinhardt, the mystery writer, who was uniquely famous. She was the first woman to have 3 books on the New York Times bestseller list.
Really?
And she made millions of dollars in her lifetime. She was a Republican. And she covered, as a journalist, the Republican and the Democratic National Conventions, and had difficulty getting any credentials to get in, because it was before women had the right to vote.
Right. Jeez.
Now, this was just to go in and interview and promote the election of these male candidates.
Yeah, right. Right.
But it is hard to imagine that it didn't exist. But there are many things like that. Abortion, for example, was a dirty little secret, and women died trying to seek abortions. And then, the law changed, and now it is the law of the land, and it's still trying to be subverted and taken away from us.
Well,
as our personal right to guard and to protect our own body.
I want to continue with this history lesson that you. There was something called the Night of Terror, which I never heard about.
Yeah.
A night of terror in this country. The terror being coming down on the heads and bodies of women. This was in November of 1917.
Right.
When the warden of a jail in Virginia ordered his guards to teach these women who they'd arrested for, I'm sure, carrying banners or something, a lesson. They were, what happened to these women? They were beaten, they were chained. As you said, they were left hanging by their hands for the night.
Mm-hmm.
They were clubbed. They were fed maggot-infested slop. When Alice Paul, who is a name that maybe people have heard, when she went on a hunger strike, she was force-fed. She was tortured. It's incredible.
And these were women who picketed the White House. That was what their crime was.
That was their crime, was they picketed the White House. Let us place the again, the president that was living in the White House at that time was a Democrat, and it was Woodrow Wilson.
Right.
And in this email, it is said that Woodrow Wilson tried to persuade a psychiatrist to declare Alice Paul insane so that they could simply put her away.
Right.
And the psychiatrist refused, and is quoted as saying to the president and his men, "Courage in women is often mistaken for insanity."
Mm-hmm. That is really stunning. And it is stunning that so many of these statements of equality generated out of psychological interpretations of the sanity of the person who made the claim. Same thing happened when it came to gender equality, to African Americans' rights, and to gay and lesbian rights. It just is astounding.
Well, power does not cede itself willingly, ever.
No.
Right. It has to be fought for. But I think this reminder to women that not to vote is so disrespectful of the memories of the courage of these women.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. These pictures came out of an HBO film that I'm hoping that we'll see soon. It was just screened. It's called Iron-Jawed Angels.
Iron-Jawed
Angels. It is completely about the women's suffragette movement. It's been around for a while, won a Sundance Film Award and many Independent Film Awards, and it's supposed to be rescreened again on HBO. So watch for it, ask for it. It's called Iron-Jawed Angels. I believe it's available on Netflix too.
Well, what occurs to me is that if you have HBO, check out their on demand and under documentaries, because maybe it'll pop up there, or they
because it's an older film, but it's a lesson that applies every day. And like I said, this particular primary in the state of Pennsylvania, it is more important than ever that if you don't think that you have something at stake, you always have something at stake.
Boy, there it is.
And Lynn is the one who will keep you up to date on what the issues are, because you do. We don't get the background that we used to get when we had more honest media around, but you will probably be likely the source to get background on what's going to be out there for you to vote on.
Well, I certainly will. Now that you've said that about me, I'll redouble my efforts. I'll try to live up to your.
It is hard for people to figure that out. I still get phone calls from neighbors who I haven't lived with for 25 years who ask me who to vote for, because I was the one who used to go leaflet the whole neighborhood with suggestions for people on voting.
I bet you did. So you're finally, You're finally going to ride off into the sunset, Mary Alice?
So this summer, I think we'll see. It's going to be very exciting. I have 3 granddaughters and a grandson, and they're 9, 8, 7, and 6, and they're in Chicago and Seal Beach, California. And once a year isn't enough when they're that age.
Nope.
It's not enough.
Nope. So you need to put that wonderful bookstore in someone else's hands, and
I think we found a super qualified woman.
Wonderful.
And I'm hoping we can we can bring these negotiations to a conclusion soon.
Well, listen, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for the incredible work you have done in this community.
Oh, thank you.
Just amazing. What a legacy you will leave.
Thank you.
Seriously.
I was particularly proud of working on the initiative for the Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh.
Wow, was that a doozy?
Wasn't that terrific?
I was so
gosh.
proud of us. Yes.
I think I might have been one of the last people standing who was a public speaker for the Home Rule Charter in the city and the county. So I got invited to join in that effort, and boy, I was so happy to do that. And that night, that library was full of poll workers who were in their 20s, and I was just restored.
Unbelievable. Were you the first head of the Center for Victim of Violent Crimes?
No, I followed Barbara Hafer.
Oh, Barbara Hafer.
Yeah, Barbara Hafer was the founding member, but I followed Barbara and was there for over 10 years, and I was the state coalition president too when we got our funding through fines and penalty assessments.
You've just you've done so much good work. You are the epitome of what a good citizen is, and God bless you for it.
We all have those opportunities.
Yeah. Hey, have fun with those grandchildren.
Thank you. And if any woman is hesitant to go to the polling place, pick up a neighbor and take them with you. I think that's the thing we should try to do this election, is to make it a party. Take two.
I love it. Don't go alone.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Because I think there are many older people who are kind of afraid of this horrible assault on our rights, which you can use on another program
with the
where
ID.
you have to provide some identification. And I think make a neighbor comfortable. Make first time voter or an elderly person or somebody who is a new citizen. Get them to the polls.
Wonderful. Mary Alice, thank you.
Thank you, dear.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye-bye. Mary Alice Gorman, a hell of a woman. That is a hell of a woman. Okay. Quick break.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
Go to bergbargains.com for great deals on tickets to the ballet, opera, city theater, science center, symphony, history museum, and the Carnegie Museums. bergbargains.com, Pittsburgh's only online deal site where the deals don't expire. bergbargains.com.
Sewickley Med Spa is Pittsburgh's newest med spa, offering the latest in skincare treatments and medical-grade skincare products. Their providers have years of experience with aesthetic treatments and technologies such as Botox, Restylance, Juvederm, chemical peels, Retin-A, and spider vein treatments. They offer a discreet, personalized environment with only the best quality proven services and products. Call them today for a free consultation. 412-259-8628. The Sewickley Med Spa. 412-259-8628.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
Yeah, here I am. And just really in the remaining time, I want to wish you all a wonderful holiday weekend. I know this is a very somber day on the Christian calendar, but a happy Easter. And hope you have an opportunity to spend time with your loved ones and to enjoy this beautiful weather, which continues apace. To my Jewish friends, happy Passover. And I think that's about it. And actually, I'm going to, what the heck? I went over like about 3 minutes yesterday. So I think I'm going under about 3 minutes today, and we'll just even things out. If you don't have anything to say, then why keep babbling? Huh? Okay, you guys, look forward to Monday, and again, happy holidays.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.